What's going on, casters? Today we have a deck profile for you guys that I've seen around, but I've not seen in this fashion. We do some things that are a little bit different, but I am very excited to finally bring to the channel our version of Fruit Loops. Alright, so as you can guess, this is a fruit-based deck. Being the dragon fruits and golden apples, things of that nature. So we are going to have our boss monster, which is Latagon. Latagon is a 2-drop, 7 attack, 8 defense. When a player casts Ambrosia or Golden Apple of Discord, you can target and destroy a card. Very, very good. So that's anytime that they play the card. So you could play 2 Ambrosias and pop 2 cards. It's amazing. Very awesome boss monster. But sometimes the decks that I've seen rely on this too much and have this as the only boss monster in the deck, which is still sort of the case for our version. But we are going to also be playing 1 Scavengem, because sometimes, even with as much draw power as this deck can pump out, you don't always see Latagon, and in that case you're simply stalling until you can get him. So I think that having a card that can, like, basically playing a 4th copy of Latagon, a card that can get you your Latagon, even if you can't see it right away. If not, it's not the biggest deal. This card can easily be chunked away with your Golden Apple of Discord, things like that. I think that having a card that will ensure that you get your Latagon is kind of a textbook for this kind of deck, because I did play test some of the other versions of Fruit Loops out there, and a lot of the times I just couldn't see Latagon no matter how much I drew. And so I think something that ensures that you get your Latagon is absolutely essential. And then another thing that we do a little bit differently is that we don't rely on our Drataya to be our main 1-drop. So if we can't get our Latagon super early, then we need something that can put on pressure without us just sitting in defense and stalling. So we do run 3 Viscerus. Viscerus is just absolutely amazing. It's one of the main stakes in Five Guys. It's a very, very good 1-drop. It's a 1-drop, 4 attack, 2 defense. This Viscerus gains +1 attack for each Viscerus on the field. When this Viscerus destroys an Elestral in battle, you can special cast a Viscerus from your hand or deck in defense position. So it's already going to be a 5 attacker on board, which is very, very good in this game right now. So many cards are relying on you having that 5 attack. So this being a 5 attack 1-drop puts that pressure on. It gets over a lot of Elestrals, and it also, upon destroying something, gets you another Viscerus that you can have on the field as well. So that's even more pressure. Your opponent is not going to want this thing to stay on board, so they are definitely going to be aiming to use their cards like Gorgon's Gaze or Shield of Achilles. They're going to be using those cards on this guy and not on your Latagon. So then we get into some of our more support cards, which I truly believe that Drataya is not the main 1-drop. He is one of the best support cards for this deck, but I don't think he's the main 1-drop. So we do run 2 of him just because his ability is absolutely amazing, but he doesn't give any pressure really to our opponent. Like, our opponent doesn't feel pressure when they see Drataya. They don't feel pressure until you hit that Latagon. So we need that Viscerus that we saw before to give them that added pressure so that they're constantly expending cards that they wouldn't normally on a regular Fruit Loops deck. So 1-drop, 2 attack, 4 defense. When a player casts Ambrosia, you can draw 2 cards. Busted. So good. Absolutely amazing card, but not going to give your opponent that pressure feeling, that pressured sense that they need to be activating cards to get rid of this. So very, very good there. And then the next support card we have is we're going to be running 2 Equal Links. 2 Equal Links because it does have 4 attack. It's a 1-drop with 4 attack and 3 defense, which is not anything to laugh about. It's a very good card. It doesn't quite hit that 5 threshold, but it does stand toe-to-toe with a lot of Elestrals, and it has a pretty decent effect as well, being that you can Nexus up to 2 Earth, which is, Nexus is just moving spirits around from one card to another. When you do, you can target and destroy a rune. So very good for back row destruction, very good for divine rune destruction, very, very good support card here. Probably one of the stronger support cards. But then, just in case we need our Equal Links, we need our Drataya, we need this, that, or the other, we do run 2 Rummagem as well. Rummagem being a 1-drop, 2 attack, 3 defense. When you normal cast this Rummagem, you can search your deck for an Elestral with enchantment cost 1 Earth and add it to your hand. So this is literally just going to be a card that probably sits on board and gets attacked over, but it's going to get you your plays that you need. So let's say that it's not turn 1, because you definitely don't want to see Rummagem in your hand on turn 1. I would say this is probably a strong card, probably best played when you already have Latagon on the field, or you're doing pretty well with your Viserys, something like that. Something that can get you a card that will eventually add more pressure to your opponent. You don't want to use this card to waste a turn to get a card that you wish you would have had this turn, if that makes sense. So this is definitely more of a support card. So it's very good, but so we do run it at 2, but it's literally just going to be on the field to essentially be attacked and die, probably. Alright, and then continuing on with these support cards, everything else as far as after Viserys is just support. But we do run 2 Pandison, because Pandison is a 1-drop with 1 attack and 4 defense, which is a very good defense. You can disenchant 1 Earth from this Pandison in order to return an Invoke rune from your underworld to your hand. So very, very good recyclability here for a lot of the cards that are going to be in this deck. So very, very useful. Some might argue maybe even playing this at 3, but I think 2 is perfectly good, and I think you'll find out why. And then rounding off the creatures, we run 2 Spy Nymph as well, which is a 1-drop, 1 attack, 5 defense, which is great defense. When this Spy Nymph is destroyed in battle, you can cast it as an artifact, empowering the Elestral that destroyed it. With the effect, the empowered Elestral has 0 base attack. Super, super good. Definitely not a card you want to see in your starting hand either. So there are cards in here to ensure that we don't necessarily start with these cards that are more support cards than not. But very, very good support card. Very good stall card in defense. Awesome card. Alright. So now we're going to go into our runes. And you could probably play with this a little bit, but this is just where I'm most comfortable. This is where I landed in my playtesting and things like that. But there's definitely some side deck options that you could definitely put in this. We won't go over a side deck now, but there's definitely, you could definitely make room for 12 extra cards that could be awesome in this deck as well. But we're going to start off with our 2 copies of Demeter. It's a 1-drop Divine Ruin. This is your God card. When you cast this Demeter, you can enchant up to 3 Earth to it, and then you can disenchant 1 Earth from this card in order to give +3 attack and +3 defense to an Elestral until the end phase. So she's basically just going to be there so that we can get to those magic numbers, of course, being +3 attack and +3 defense. And then also, she's going to be here so that we can have some spirits on board that we can pull from if we need to. That way, we don't just keep burning our life away. We can still have some spare life here if we need it. But usually, we will probably only play this, and we might not even add a spirit to it. We may just play it for the 1 cost, and then just have it as a boost if we need it. It's not super important, but it's still very good because it does, like I said, get you to those magic numbers. And then speaking of magic numbers, because like I said, a lot of this deck doesn't necessarily quite hit numbers, we are going to max out our stadium card actually, because a lot of cards in this deck aren't necessarily dead if you do max them out, because you could easily use Golden Apple to discard this card, and it feels a lot better than if you have to discard something like a Latagon or a Jataya. It feels a lot better when you can just discard a stadium card or something like that. So we're going to max out on this because this is going to help us get to those magic numbers where we're going to be facing 4 attacks, 5 attacks. So this is going to help not only our Viscerus, but other cards as well on the board stay on board so that we can get to our Latagon, so that we can ascend into it and have huge numbers with Latagon as well. And then I've said it multiple times during this, but we are going to be running 3 Golden Apple of Discord. Golden Apple of Discord is a 1-drop. Discard a card from your hand in order to discard a random card from your opponent's hand and send the top 2 cards of their deck to the underworld. Very good there. And paired with Latagon, you can also destroy something on board, making the amount of pluses that you get from using this card paired with Latagon substantial. And then what would a fruit deck be without the dragon fruit itself, Ambrosia? A lot of decks nowadays are making sure that they max out their Ambrosias so that they don't just outright die. But that's not the only reason why we do this. We do this so that we can pop things on board, so that we can draw cards. Ambrosia is absolutely busted in a Fruit Loop deck, and it's so much fun. Ambrosia being a 1-drop, return up to 3 spirits from your underworld to your spirit deck. Alright, and this next part might be a little controversial, but I believe that if you playtest this, you'll see that it is pretty necessary actually. We're going to be running 3 Nectar of the Gods. I know, trust me. That's a lot of spirits to be using for drawing 2 cards, for essentially drawing 1 card because you're getting rid of this card to draw 2 cards. So I know what you're thinking. It's a lot. And it is, but usually if your opponent can't outright just stop your plays, honestly, if you can use these pretty early in the game, you're going to have your Ambrosias to get basically everything back. So you're going to cancel out the fact that you even use these and have your Ambrosia in your hand. It's going to be so much plussing that you're not even going to realize that you even spent that much spirits in order to get all these cards that you're going to need. So this is essentially a better way to play the draws that you would get from Jataya, so that it doesn't take up a slot on your board. It doesn't take up your normal cast. So you can play these as many times as you want to. You can recycle them to keep drawing with Pandison, and even if it's turn 2, you can keep drawing until you find your Latagon to ascend into. It's going to be absolutely amazing and well worth it. I promise you, just give it a test. Maybe you'll change it, maybe you won't, but I'm telling you, test it out before you just outright rule it out. And then also to ensure that we get the cards that we need, we're going to be running 2 drops of Lith as well. So very similar reason to Nectar of the Gods. Like I said, you can keep playing these cards, you can recycle them. It's going to help you out a ton. Drops of Lith being a 2-drop, reveal any number of cards in your hand, then shuffle them into your deck and draw that many cards +1. So you don't minus this except for spirits. Very good card. I'm surprised that I don't see it in more decks. And then we're going to be running 2 copies of just the standard Earthquake here. Earthquake being a 2-drop, target and destroy an Elestral. Very simple there. And recyclable as well. And then our final Invoke Ruin is going to be 1 copy of Rise from the Ashes, because Rise from the Ashes is pretty expensive. but it can be recycled with your Pendicin, so there is that. But it's tough for me to justify a 3-drop of just about anything. 2-drops are a little bit more, like I said, you have so many things that can go right with you with the Nectar of the Gods. But for some reason, it's just tough for me personally to get over the fact that I'm dropping 3 for this one card, because you're also adding spirits to a card once you bring the card back. If I'm mistaken about that, please let me know in the comments below. But yeah, so essentially, if you're getting back your Latagon, you're casting for 5 spirits essentially. So it's tough for me to justify that. But it is very good and it can pop off. So it's very, very good card to have in here. So I do recommend trying it at 1. If you want to test it out at other ratios, please do. Let me know in the comments down below how that works out for you, and maybe I'll change my mind. Alright, and then moving on to the counter ruins. We don't have very many counter ruins in this deck, surprisingly. It is very Invoke Ruin heavy. But we do have 3 copies of Tsunami to give us some stall power. It's essentially just going to be a 1-drop water and turn off your opponent's attack phase unless they're attacking with a water enchanted creature, which usually isn't the case right now. There's not that many water decks and people playing water out there. So Tsunami is super, super powerful right now. And then to round off our counter ruins, we're going to be running 2 Shield of Achilles. You could definitely test out PTAs instead. Poison tipped arrow. You can test that out instead, but I like the fact that this doesn't target. So if I happen to be going against a Voltempest player, I feel more confident in shield rather than PTA, which does target, and so that would hinder us there. But that's really the only reason why I would prefer shield over PTA, is simply if I think I might be going against a Voltempest player. So Shield of Achilles is going to be a 1-drop. This Shield of Achilles can only be cast after an opponent's Elestral declares an attack. Expend spirit equal to that Elestral's enchantment cost, which if it's a Voltempest, it's going to be 3, in order to negate that attack and return that Elestral to their hand. So it doesn't have to be a Voltempest, of course, that you play this against, but you just know that whatever its cost is to play it, a Voltempest being 3, then that's what you're also going to be paying on top of your 1. So you're going to be paying 4 to send back something big like that. But it can help out in the case that Voltempest is one of the more popular decks out there. So definitely wanted to put something in there for that. And so to go over our spirits are very, very simple. This is essentially a mono type deck. So we're going to be running 3 Leviathan for our 3 Tsunami. And then we're also going to be running 17 Taratlus, because like I said, this is essentially a mono deck. So there's that. Alright, so that's going to be my version of Fruit Loops. Definitely let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. Let me know if there's anything that you think that I should change. Let me know your reasons why, of course. And of course, let me know how this deck does for you. If you choose to play this deck, please let me know how it does. Let me know if it wins you any games, if it wins you any tournaments. Yeah, just keep me posted on your thoughts and opinions about this deck, because I actually really like this deck. This is probably my favorite version of Earth, period. Fruit Loops is absolutely amazing. Latagon is one of the coolest and probably a little bit underused boss monsters out there. And then just the whole idea of this dragon fruit deck is absolutely awesome. So please let me know all that stuff in the comments below. Drop a like if you like this, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Peace.